Happy Saturday. Everyone is out of the office today because Saturdays are our days off. But I have come in here to catch up on some stuff. This is where everyone eats lunch. So I actually have several things to do today. Number one, I have several subscription orders that I need to look at. That's like a specialty case. And then second, I have some regular orders that are a specialty case that I need to look at. And then third, I just need to package some regular orders. First things first, when I came into the office, somebody gave me this order because I need to look at it. You can see it says to Helen. Okay, let's get into some questions. The first one is, at what point in your life did you think your artwork could become a business? How did you take the leap? So I think since I was like 11 or 12, I started looking for ways to make money from my art. And it wasn't for, I guess, greedy reasons like, oh, I just want to monetize my hobby. But I did come from a low-income family, and also we were immigrants, so I think a lot of other immigrant children might relate to this, but there's just this whole notion that pursuing art isn't a very sustainable career path. Knew that if I wanted to have art in my future, which was my true passion, then I would need to look for a way to make a living off of it. So, but as for like taking the leap into the Coffee Monsters Co., I guess I knew that the Coffee Monsters Co. would be a very big part of my life and my career when my mom would come home from her full-time job, and then she would proceed to help me with the Coffee Monsters Co. That's kind of when I realized that if I want to primarily design and continue with art, then I need help for the Coffee Monsters Co. and it's going to keep growing, and yeah, now we are here, which is so crazy. These are the November subscriptions. Super cute. And then these are the October ones. Okay, the next question is, do you go through phases where you don't even want to do any planning / journaling at all, and then you get really motivated to plan and journal again, and then that cycle continues? Absolutely. I think throughout my entire planning journey, I go through phases where I'm super inspired to try new things, to write about every little thing that happens during my day. And then I go through phases where even writing down a to-do list feels like the most exhausting thing in the world. And I think this really coincides with how I'm doing in general. Like if I'm going through a phase where I'm tired with life in general, then it kind of reflects in my planner. And that's kind of how I approach it. If I'm just not feeling particularly motivated, I do, try a few things to spruce up my planner a little bit, but if that's really not working, then I just write it off as a reflection of my actual life. So if a particular spread in my planner is rather empty, then I just make note of the fact that this is reflecting perhaps I am more down or busier in real life. Not too sure if this actually answers a question or helps at all, but I think in general, I just try not to force anything with my planner. Other than not sleeping very much, what other habits do you think help you maximize how much work you get done in a day? So for my productivity, and honestly for me as a person in general, I am very diametric with everything. So it's either like all or nothing, which is not the healthiest mindset. But for example, with productivity, I either will have a day where I am just like attempting to get things done, but I'm just like super sluggish and I make very little progress. I'm still working, but just not very productive. And then I will have other days where I knock out like 5 different deadlines and feeling on top of the world. So for me, again, personally, I have gathered that what really helps is first having a routine of work that I do very easily in the mornings. And then as for the things that I do, I try to knock out a lot of small to-do list items first in the morning, and then I move on to my bigger projects, because this just gives me a sense of accomplishment, and then I really just get going and I end up very motivated for the rest of the day. So this can look like in the mornings, I always respond to some emails, I always respond to a few social media comments, and then I always go to the gym. As long as I get those 2 things done, I am just on a roll, and I will jump into my to-do list with like following up on emails or really quickly fixing a cut file. These are like things that can be done in less than 5 minutes, and it's something that I can check off my to-do list. And then after I get those things done, I then work on bigger design projects that might require several hours. So I put, I think, 30 of the snail mails in the envelopes, and then I'm going to put it with the snail parcel into this bubble mailer. As a business owner, it is so easy to overwork. Do you have tips for not overworking and setting boundaries between life and work? And then also a follow-up question about having a brick and mortar store. So about overworking, I definitely struggle with this because, it's evident by the fact that I am there on a Saturday when Saturdays are supposed to be our out of office days. But in seriousness, it is something that I struggle with, and it's more so because I love what I do so much that I don't really see it as a struggle. Does that make any sense? Like, I know it's not good for me to work all the time, but I love it so much that the downsides just isn't very apparent to me. I do have, I think, 2 tips that have been really working for me. Number 1 is whenever I feel like I have just been too involved in work and I need a few hours to myself, the do not disturb setting on my phone has been a godsend. Now, I still let my texts and calls through because, you know, if my parents or if my employees need something, I'm not going to just leave them hanging. That's kind of rude. But I turn on the setting for just like not being notified of social media notifications or tags or other random notifications that come up. Just like even the text ringtone kind of triggers something in me. Like it makes me suddenly think about, okay, what could be going wrong? Even if it's like a spam text or something. So yeah, just turning on Do Not Disturb and really minimizing my notifications when I want some personal time has been really helpful. The second thing is I physically remove myself from my place of work. So again, if I'm feeling too cooped up and involved in work and I want to take some time for myself, what I like to do is go on a walk around the block or just like for 30 minutes around the park or something. I typically play a podcast or some music and just kind of zone out. That by itself could be just like a little break, or I use it as a lead up to something else that I want to do for myself, like for example, read or paint. Something that I really cannot do is go straight from work to reading or something personal because my brain is still in work mode. So just like removing myself completely, going on a walk, and then either going back to work or if I have more time, then I'll do some reading. This really helps with kind of switching gears in my brain. As for setting boundaries, I want to choose my words very carefully here because I don't want to accidentally like offend any customers, because I absolutely love all of my customers and I will do anything to make my customers happy. But in recent months, I have been setting some some boundaries with my customers in terms of like special requests, if that makes any sense. So just as an example, if a customer messages me for a custom design, previously I might cave just because I kind of have a catastrophic mindset. Like if I say no to this customer, then my entire business is going to fail. Like that's literally how my brain works sometimes. And so I would bend over backwards working on this custom design, and it'll start eating away at my personal time, stuff like that. And so nowadays I kind of set that boundary. I try to be very realistic. Like, does this benefit me in any way? But actually, more importantly, does this negatively affect my personal self in any way? Obviously, there are exceptions, but if it's a yes, then I will kindly decline any custom work. So that's just a general example of how I am setting some boundaries between life and work lately. And then as for a brick and mortar store / pop-up, I would love to do that. Not the brick and mortar just because I'm not too sure how feasible it is, although I have mentioned before that one of my dreams is to open a stationery cafe. Like think of a cozy cafe serving coffee, tea, drinks, baked goods, and also providing things like fountain pen inks and washi tape and stickers for everyone to share. I don't know if that's a utopia, but it is one of my biggest dreams. I think a pop-up is definitely more feasible. I will definitely have to look into something like that. Nancy has 5 questions, which I will try to answer very quickly. Number 1, if you had unlimited free time, how would you spend it? I would paint because it's very difficult for me to carve out like 6 straight hours just to paint. So that would be the dream. Number 2, what or who got you into planning / stationery? I have always loved stationery. In fact, one of my favorite stories to tell is when I was a toddler, I used to steal my sister's stickers. So it has always been there. But specifically for planning, I think I was exposed to the planner world by 3 specific people. One is Boho Berry, who did bullet journal videos. Another is Elle Fowler. I think her business is called Glam Planner. And then I also used to watch a lot of Scroll Prince Co. videos. Number 3, what causes are you passionate about? I will just share one thing that I'm passionate about, and it is regarding homelessness. Part of it is, I don't know, I'm a very empathetic person, I think. And, you know, people will talk about laziness and yada 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 in the context of homelessness, but for me it's very hard for me to separate the feeling of seeing another human being out on the streets. So that is something that I'm very passionate about, and another part of why I'm so passionate about it is because I studied economics, and there's a lot of social and economic issues tied to that. So it's interesting for me to read about as well. Not so much when I'm traveling, but especially around my neighborhood, I try to help in whatever way that I can. Number 4 is, what is your favorite read of 2023 so far? I will have to go on Goodreads to check. Okay, so I have two books that I want to give a shout out to. Not that they need my shout out. The first one is Frankenstein, and the second one is Chess Story. And then Nancy's 5th question is, what's a goal you hope to accomplish before 2024? I have 2 very unserious goals. Number 1 is to finish an oil painting. And if I do finish, I'll definitely show you guys. And the second one is to be able to do a push-up. If I do manage to do a push-up, I probably will not show you guys. That would be kind of strange, but I will let you know. Hannah has 2 questions. I still find keeping up with my Hobonichi quite overwhelming. How do you manage to keep up with multiple journals and all of your artwork for the shop? Well, in terms of balancing between my journals and designing for the shop, they are completely different for me. And also, I find that I get a lot of inspiration for the shop from my personal doodles. So they kind of go hand in hand and it doesn't really trouble me that much. But as for keeping up with my Hobonichi as well as other journals, I am definitely not immune to feeling overwhelmed. In fact, at the beginning of the year, you saw that my planner lineup included the Hobonichi Cousin, the bullet journal, as well as the Hobonichi Weeks, and also a language planner. And then in recent months, I have just cut down to the Hobonichi Cousin and the bullet journal. So my number one tip is definitely to keep it realistic for sure. Unless you have a lot of free time, you likely won't be able to fill out every single spread in 5 different planners every single day. But if you're already being realistic with how many planners you're using at the same time, I've given this piece of advice before, but basically I look for little things in my daily life that otherwise isn't too exciting, but I make it exciting. So for example, grabbing coffee at a local cafe, I have done that a million times, but I still kind of make a big deal out of it in my planner. I like to doodle about it. I tell any stories surrounding it. I love to doodle my groceries. I've gotten groceries hundreds of times, but I don't know, I still find it exciting. So apart from exciting things, I also write a lot about these little things. All right, we have moved stations again. This is the shipping station. Typically the subscriptions are pretty streamlined in terms of shipping because everyone's the same. But again, these are just some specialty cases, so I have to do them one by one. I won't complain, but it's definitely not my favorite thing to do. And then her other question is, as you have expanded so much because of your amazing artwork and creativity, thank you so much, do you think you will ever feel that TCMC is getting too big to manage? What will you do if that happens? So I think the last question, what will you do if that happens? Hopefully that'll never apply because my intention isn't really to grow my business to a very large corporation. My parents have suggested previously that I pursue some business routes which will allow me to just basically sit back and enjoy all of the business profits. So they have suggested, for example, hiring a graphic designer to do my artwork for me so I don't have to do as much. Now, I want to very clearly say my parents were suggesting that because I was very obviously burning myself out and they were very, I would say, heartbroken as parents to see me so exhausted. So that's why they were suggesting it. But yeah, that is a route that I will never want to take. I very much love what I do. I love being hands-on with my work. So if that means that there is a point where the Coffee Monsters Co. can no longer grow because I don't want to expand in that way, then I'm perfectly fine with it. And I'm just happy to keep doing what I'm doing. Ooh, kind of a juicy question. Has your sister ever been jealous of your success? I'm obviously not in her brain, so I don't know, but I can pretty confidently say that no. We are very, very close, and she is one of my biggest supporters. She is 6 years older than me, and she is a pharmacist. She's very successful in her field, and I don't know what the heck she does. So yeah, I think we appreciate what the other person does and have accomplished, and we kind of hype each other up, and it's a very nice relationship. How do you fight with depression and anxiety? First of all, I am sending my sincere love to you. For people who suffer from mental illnesses, the specifics are obviously very different. Like our depression and anxiety and whatever illness stems from different things or different events. But I think everyone who suffers from mental illnesses can understand just the level of torment and energy it takes to deal with it 24/7. So I don't know your specific situation, but I can understand. Unfortunately, I don't have any answers to this question because I am, first of all, not a professional, but also I am dealing with it myself. And if I had an answer, then I wouldn't be dealing with it. The only thing that's coming to mind that I want to say to you, as well as to anyone listening, is first of all, to not compare yourself to other people, but more importantly, I think sometimes you should stop comparing yourself to yourself as well. Let me explain. I think it is often said that, if you see someone living their best life on social media, achieving all of these things, don't compare your accomplishments to theirs. But I feel like what doesn't get said a lot is your accomplishments on a day-to-day basis will vary as well. So for example, on some days, I just getting out of bed and brushing my teeth is my 100%. And it's very hard not to compare one of these days to maybe another day that I had that week where I was able to get so much done. Because especially for people with mental illnesses, I think our 100% looks very different and it's very volatile every day. So I guess just do your best each day. And also, you don't have to try 100% every day. That sounds very exhausting. Again, I can't really give any solid advice. Like even advice like go to therapy. I don't know why. For me personally, I really don't like it when people just blanketly suggest going to therapy. It takes a lot of energy and time and money to find a therapist that works for you, and it's not so simple as just calling a therapist up and talking for an hour. I do want to say though, going to therapy is invaluable, and if you're able to, then definitely go. But just in general, I know that it's not always accessible. Sorry, I got a little bit too passionate. I am going to try to answer some questions very quickly. All right, I just finished off all of these shipments, and do excuse my nail, I'm going to package some orders now. This is the current card that we are giving out, and if you can't tell, it is supposed to look like the YouTube home screen, but like very fall and cozy. And these are some of my favorite channels, except this one and this one. I heard that channel is kind of weird. Would you ever consider digital planning? I already do a form of digital planning on my Google Calendar, but I don't really have any interest in dabbling into the whole iPad planning sort of thing. I just truly love paper planning, and I don't have an interest in getting an iPad, so yeah. How did you discover the Hobonichi world? So I actually grew up in Japan, so the Hobonichi company has always been on my radar for as long as I can remember. So yeah. Why is it that you don't restock your washi tape continuously instead of rarely? This is mostly just because it's not as simple as soon as a washi tape sells out, then I will just quickly make more and then put it back in the store. Things like the size of the washi tape, whether it's 10 millimeter or 15 millimeter, and also the foil that I use affects each production batch. The production itself takes several weeks, sometimes like 1 or 2 months if something goes wrong. And I also have to time each new release and restock. We have a lot of other things in the shop like stickers and charms and vellums, all of which I am working on producing at the same time. So yeah, it's just a little difficult. I would say like 99% of the washi tape that I release are in the form of a pre-order hybrid. So as long as you either are subscribed to my email newsletter or follow on Instagram/Facebook, and you are aware of when I host these pre-orders, then there should be no missing out on any designs. Why did you switch from the Hobonichi Cousin full year to the avec system, which is like the half year system? And I don't really have a deep reason for this. The Hobonichi Cousin has been working for me for the past 3 years, so I didn't want to deviate to a completely different planner, but I just wanted to try something new, and the effect system does have the benefit of being able to start fresh mid-year, and also by the end of the year it's not going to be super super heavy and chunky, unlike the Hobonichi Cousin, which is getting a little fluffy and hard to write in. What is it like to be an aunt and for my parents to have their first grand baby boy? This is such a sweet question. I don't think my parents were expecting any gender, so we're all just very happy to have a very healthy and adorable baby boy. I will insert a few more pictures with the consent of my sister, my brother-in-law, of course. And yeah, we're gonna get a little personal, but ever since I was like 12, I have made the decision that I don't think I would like to be a parent. Yeah, maybe this will change in the future, but I'm currently 23 and I have not really wavered on my stance. So for that reason, I am very excited to watch my nephew grow and spoil him, and also my future nieces and nephews. Christina is asking if I'm still tracking my exercise anywhere now that I'm not using the Hobonichi weeks. And actually, yes, I am. Still tracking the Hobonichi weeks. I am so stubborn, and even though I'm not using the Hobonichi weeks for my day-to-day planning anymore, I'm still using the habit tracker because I want to complete it for the year. So yeah. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and what would you like to see? For one, I would love to visit Australia, but if I could pick only one vacation, it would be to Italy. I love Italian architecture, I love art, I love the food, the countryside, and one of my dreams is to take an Italian painting course. That would be just amazing. Do you have any dream collaborations? I will say I have a fun new collaboration for a washi tape with another sticker small business. That'll be mid 2024, so stay tuned for that. And as for a collaboration on fountain pen inks, this is a tough one. I would say either Sailor or Robert Oster. I love their inks very, very much. I have a lot of questions asking about my design software. So I use 3 different, actually like more like four different design softwares. I use Painttool Sai, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and Affinity Designer. I've been using these programs for over a decade, and I like certain things from each program, so I use them together to create my artwork. Somebody asked about the healthcare system. So yes, we do have health coverage for myself, my family, as well as my employees. My employees get paid time off, vacation days, holiday pay, stuff like that. I'm not super well versed in this because I do have an accountant who takes care of this. But yeah, I think our healthcare requirements are similar to the US in terms of employment, but we're just less reliant on insurance companies. A few people asking about taking an extended break so I can just rest and focus on my mental health. First of all, I am so grateful that you care about me. This does tie into a little bit my earlier answer where my parents suggested that I hand off my work, and then I can just sort of relax and still be financially stable. For me, running the Coffee Monsters Co. brings me a sense of fulfillment that I don't think I can get anywhere else. And for that reason, I don't have any interest in taking an extended break. However, I do agree with you and my parents that I really should be conscious of taking actual breaks, just like 1 or 2 days throughout the week or something like that. This is something that I can definitely improve on. What is your favorite season to design for versus your own favorite? I think my favorite season to design for recently has been summer because I just love the bright colors. And my personal favorite season is definitely autumn. Sarah is asking, did you manage to get the Taylor Swift tour tickets? Unfortunately, no. I always told myself that once I make money, I will for sure go to a Taylor Swift concert. And it has always been my dream since I was a little girl. But funnily, now that I am able to purchase a ticket, I have kind of developed a fear of crowds. Not really a fear, but it just the idea of going to a crowded place or like going to a concert doesn't really appeal to me anymore. But I definitely will be watching the movie, and I will list out my favorite full tracks on the screen. Nicole says, I feel like you often speak fairly negative about yourself, which is something that I also struggle with. So, what are 3 things that you love about yourself? This is so sweet. And Nicole, I challenge you to think of some things you love about yourself as well. I have been thinking about my answer for this for way too long. Number 1, I love that I care about other people. Number 2, I like that I'm able to draw and craft things. And number 3, okay, I have been having some bad body image days, so I'm just gonna say I love that my body is able to do everything that it needs to do on a day-to-day basis, and it doesn't really matter what I look like. Do you watch videos from other YouTubers in the planner community? I do, and in fact, in the bean card that we are giving out with orders currently, on the sidebar you will see some of my favorite channels, but I will also put it on the screen. Emily says, I would like to see how your office is set up. I imagine this is Willy Wonka-esque. You are right. It really reminds me of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but with like stationery. But I will not be doing an office tour, and I have maintained this stance since the very beginning. And it is just because, like, I don't even know if I should be saying this, but a lot of the times after our employees go home, it is just myself or my dad or my mom or a combination of us 3 working later at night. And even though we have like alarms and security, I don't feel safe showing the entire office. And I might have mentioned this some other time, but I actually got kind of a alarming prank call where somebody knew my address and they were saying something not very nice. So yeah, for that reason, I won't be showing, but you can see a little bit of the setup, I think, in this video. I will just respond to one more comment, and then if I didn't manage to respond to your question, I'm so sorry. Thank you for submitting it, and I will later respond to your comment in the original post. So Tita asks, I have a couple of questions. Number 1, if you could move to any country in the world, where would that be? And it would be Japan, because that is where I was born and I would love to live there again. Number 2, who inspired you to be the most creative growing up? And this would definitely be my sister. She is actually an amazing artist as well, and in fact I used to steal and plagiarize her art and get my ass whooped. Number 3, if you could only save one pen in the world, what would it be? I don't know why you would ask such a cruel question, but in seriousness, I would keep the Energel Clena 0.4, but if I could pick a second, it would be the Leonardo Momento Magico. And then lastly, what has been the greatest success for you / TCMC this year? It would definitely be the office space. This has been both a personal and business goal for many years. So Yeah, I am very, very happy. So thank you again for listening. If you have any other questions, let me know and I will try my best to answer. I hope you have a wonderful day and take care. Bye.